main role is responsible for the apple enterprise at Lone Tree Farms. And that is pretty much taking apples from planting right through to marketing and sales, and obviously everything in between. It's a family-run business. We're fourth generation on the farm. And like I say, I'm responsible for the apples, and then my brother, he does the cropping side, and then I've got a sister involved who heads up our finances. So my great-granddad came out from Lesotho in the 1950s, early 1950s, and he bought the original farm. And since then, my granddad's farm, my dad's farmed, and now we're the fourth generation farming on these farms.
And the climate is good for apples. It's quite unusual for the Free State, or?
Yeah, it is unusual. It's only 2% of South Africa's production, so it's not big. But our advantage is that we're 2 to 3 weeks earlier into production versus the main areas being the Western Cape and the Lumcliffe. So that's where we get our competitive advantage, and it's our little niche market and makes it worthwhile because it is a very risky area to be growing apples, especially with things like frost and hail.
Where do you send the apples? Are they for local consumption or do you export them?
It's about a third of our apples go out on export, a third into the retail market on fixed pricing and fixed programs, and then there's about a third that goes into the municipal markets, various locations around the country.
Now let's take a look at some of the things you said at the event when you won the Free State Farm of the Year award quite recently. One of the things you said that farming is a unique career choice. What did you have in mind when you said that?
I think it's not that easy to get into. I think a lot of people don't necessarily see agriculture as the first prize. I think at the moment there are a couple of negative issues surrounding agriculture that possibly turn people off. And I think from my aspect is that I was fortunate to get into it, mainly due to the fact that it's a family business, and we had the farm and we've been able to have the succession. So I think that's what makes it unique.
Farmers tend to understate the challenges, but it is. Would you say at the moment it's a challenging environment farming here in South Africa?
Yeah, absolutely. Climatic challenges are massive. Each year there's something different thrown at us, whether it's a drought or a flood or hail or frost. Economically, there are a lot of challenges. I think COVID's taken its toll on the economy, and we're feeling the pinch at the moment in terms of sales and volume. And I think politically is also a challenge with all that's being said and going around in the media, expropriation and the rural safety, farmer tax, things like that. I think there are a lot of challenges.
So with that, at the awards ceremony, you stressed the importance of mutual respect in the sector. Could you unpack that a bit?
Respect is something that I was raised by my parents as a very big attribute. It was impressed upon us and it was emphasized a lot. And I think mutual respect, the mutual part, just makes it sustainable in any kind of relationship. So that's why I think it's incredibly important, whether it be with your staff or with your customers or even with one's family.
Where do you see the benefits in your practical working life?
I think specifically in my situation here, we work with Sotho-speaking people. I'm fortunate enough to speak the language, and in their culture, respect is also a massive, massive factor. So I think it's huge. I think it's the way one treats people and how you get treated by people. So I think that's why it's such a big thing for us, and it's almost a cultural thing in our business. It's something that we inherited from our father and he inherited from his, and it's how we go along with our staff, who are also generational for the most part, and we've grown up with them. So that's why I think it's such a big factor.
So does that mean that your staff are more prepared to go the extra mile for you because they know that you're prepared to do that for them?
I'd like to think so. I don't think it's always that easy. We've had our challenges. In September 2016, we lost our entire apple crop, 95% crop loss from a frost that we had in flowering time. And that, from where we had absolute respect for one another, we had some seriously hard times where, we had to rebuild those relationships. It really got quite nasty. I think the business was down, the morale was down, and it was a tough time. It was probably one of the toughest times that I've faced in the 17 years I've been in the business. But at the end of the day, we were able to turn it around, and we're back onto a good standing and a good understanding with our staff. So, I don't think it's static. It definitely moves, but I think it does go a long way to help.
Another thing that you said was it's necessary to create a working environment where everyone can help learn and grow. That sounds like a fantastic idea. How does it work out in practice?
Well, I think, it is. I think it's really just the idea. I think the idea is that I would like to think that people who work at Lone Tree Farms feel that they have an opportunity, and they have an opportunity to learn and to grow, and essentially to be better off from where they are now. They believe in the vision and the values of the business. So I think it's something that I like to think is the environment here. Maybe if one were to ask around in the staff, it may be a bit different, but I'd like to think that's our vision, and that's our kind of our ethos here at Lone Tree Farms.
What were the issues that were raised in 2016 when the apple crop failed?
Initial thing was that we had to downscale on staff. We had been in a period up until then of building quite aggressively, of expanding our apple production, and it's quite labor intensive. So we were taking on a lot of staff. We had recently appointed quite a few permanent positions. And when we had that, we realized that we had to downscale. And so we started with needing to release some people. And that's when I think things turned for the worse. Unfortunately, unions got involved, and not to anyone's benefit, because it certainly wasn't to the people who were being retrenched benefit either. It just came in between. It really got nasty, which is, I think, unfortunately, where most of these things end up with the unions. And it ruined our relationships. Like I say, guys we had grown up with and people we had a lot of respect for had turned against us, and it was a tough time. It was a challenging time. And we got through it. We found a course being run by guys in Joburg, and they came and ran a course, and we took a couple of key individuals who start on that course. Subsequently, we've now run that course a couple of years, giving everyone the opportunity. And we think that was one of the fundamental things that was able to turn it around literally before it almost completely broke away from us. The course is work for a living, and I think it just went about a lot of understanding about the business and what the pressures are in a business. They addressed issues like unions, they addressed issues like cash flows, they addressed issues like unforeseen circumstances. Obviously we were able to tell them our part of the story, but it was a very good, well-run course with a good teacher involved who got to know the 20 staff that we originally started off with on a personal basis. She still contacts them and finds out how things are going at Lone Tree Farm. So it made a big impression on them. And in fact, after the course, they then had an opportunity to speak to the rest of the staff. And I think that also had an impact, from guys who really now seem to have a change of mind as to how this thing works and how we're going to get out of it and still get better.
Well, it sounds like after a severe challenge, you bounce back, and with that added insight and knowledge, I'm sure your staff are helping you run an even better operation.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think we still have our daily challenges. I mean, we're working with people change, people have different ideas, but I'd like to think it's made a difference. It's been a challenging couple of years for us, specifically in agriculture. So it's meant a lot of hard times. You know, we've had recently COVID thrown at us this season. We've had a lot of rain thrown at us. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but I think it's how one deals with them. And as you say, we learned a lot from that lesson. I think certain things that we may change going ahead, how we deal with it, and hopefully the response from the staff will also be different.
What are you looking forward to this year, 2021?
We, on the back of, like I said, a bit of an average type of season, but I think we're very fortunate to still be in the game. I guess it's very much like gambling. You know, we're still at the table. We get to roll that dice one more time. So we look forward to the next season. We're finishing off this season with the picking of the apples. And we've still got our maize harvest to come off, which looks very good. So we're very fortunate and grateful for that. Yeah, so for the next year, I think we've got projections. We've got a lot of young orchards coming in with exciting varieties. So we've had a taste this year of better color strains, bigger size apples. We've just seen the impact that has on the marketing and the price and the return. So these are all decisions we took 5, 6, 7 years ago that are now starting to pay off. So I think that's the exciting part. And like I say, it's always nice to think of the challenges that one faces logistically with a big crop and how one gets through it and packs it and stores it and sells it. And so all very, very exciting things to be dealing with. Yeah.